Ryan, I just moved, so I am sitting in a room with very little furniture in it because we haven't finished bringing all our stuff in. I'm not good with change. How about you? Change is like uncomfortable, makes me feel anxious. Even if it's a good change, I get a little nervous about the whole thing. Anyway, that's kind of what this book is all about, is change. In order for us to move past the things that have wounded and hurt us, we have to be willing to change. We have to be willing to change our thoughts. We have to be able to be willing to change our habits, and we just have to be willing to move forward and let go of some of the hurt and let God really minister to our hearts and heal us. All right, let's see where we are today. Okay, last time we talked about the first two parables in Luke 15, and today we're going to talk about the third parable in Luke 15. So this is about the last in the story of the parables of lost souls that we find in Luke 15. And remember that this is in response to the Pharisees asking him about why he's, hangs out with sinners. He associates with what they would call sinners. And he didn't answer the question. He just told them 3 stories. And the 3 stories are to show that people have value, no matter what label you want to put on them. Okay, so the last story in the trio of parables of lost souls in Luke 15 is the most well known. So this is the story of a son who intentionally loses himself. So remember, we talked about the other 2. One person, just the sheep wandered away bit by bit, not really meaning to lose himself. The coin didn't know it had value and was just lost. Fell through the cracks, basically, is what we're saying. And then this one is the son who intentionally says, I'm out of here. I prefer this over what you have to offer me. So he did not wander away bit by bit like the sheep. He's not fallen through the cracks. Instead, he insults his father. This is huge, by asking for his inheritance. If in that culture, if a son, basically, you don't get your inheritance until the person dies. So he's saying, you're basically dead to me. I wish you were dead. I want my inheritance. And he leaves not only his home, but after selling what his father gave him, he leaves even the safety of his community to go to a faraway land. He knows the consequences of his choices will be a complete estrangement from his father. He does not deserve to be part of this family because of the insult that he gave to his father. He's given up all rights to sonship that he had. So maybe in that faraway land, he'll find what he's looking for, he thinks. And for a while, he does. He has a great time. He's free to do whatever he wants to do, away from any restrictions on his behavior his father had placed on him. But it doesn't last. Never does, right? Because that kind of freedom comes with a price. It may have felt like he had unlimited resources when he left his community with all those coins in his pocket. But because he was unwise with what he had and neither earned more nor invested his money, he eventually ran out. He was one of those eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we may die kind of people. Only tomorrow came, and he found himself without friends, resources, community, or family. And he knows the whole thing is his own fault. The father in this third story is not like the shepherd searching for the lost sheep or the woman searching for her missing coin. Instead, he waits. There's something profound in the waiting, in that waiting. He is anxious for his son's return, He's so anxious for his son's return that he watches the road constantly, but he does not go to that far country to retrieve his son. He knows his son first must realize his lostness, and that when he does, he will remember the home he had with his father and wander back of his own accord. The return of a lost son is even more joyous than the finding of a lost sheep or a missing coin. The son, who had thought to fix his own dilemma by hiring himself as a servant, that was his plan, to come back and ask to be a servant, is immediately restored as a son by his father. The moment the father sees him on the road, he runs to intercept him before he reaches the village, where he will surely be scorned for his prior insults to the father. The father, in this running to him, because the community basically is going to, they said, you left, you insulted him, you insulted the community, you insulted everything. They're not going to help him. So the father gets there first. And this is what he does. It's so profound. The family ring is placed on his finger, sandals brought for his feet, and the best robe given him to wear. There wasn't any time for penance. There was no judgment given. The father didn't even wait until the son delivered his prepared speech. He had a speech all prepared, how he was going to say, I want to come back as a servant. But he didn't even get a chance to say it. But there's another son in this story, one who was not lost because he chose to leave his father's home, but because even though he had all the privileges of living in his father's home, he saw the father as a taskmaster and his obligations as a son just to complete the duties his father had asked of him. He lived according to the rules, but without the relationship. This is also very, very important. This son was unhappy when someone, his brother, who had value to the father was found. He complained about the extravagant celebration and refused to rejoice. But even this religious son has value to the father, who reassured him of his sonship and pleaded with him to come into the celebration. The father, throughout this story, displays a love that cost him dearly. He endures the insults of both his sons and the emotional pain their actions cause him. One who, by asking for his inheritance when his father is young and healthy, has as much declared that he wished him dead, and taking a good portion of the living that was meant to sustain the family. The other, by his refusal to rejoice with the father when he was celebrating the restoration of his brother. That costly love by the father was on display again when the father runs to greet the returning son and his prompt restoration of sonship before any penance could be given. The community would not be waiting, ready to receive the returning prodigal as the father was. There would be no warm welcome from them. Instead, they already considered him cut off, and he had reached the edge of the village. And if he had reached the edge of the village before the father had intercepted him, they surely would have acted on those firmly held beliefs. We don't know what they would have done. Would they have tried to stone him? We don't know. The story was told to show the Pharisees the true worth of the sinners they accused Jesus of dining with, and to demonstrate the very extravagant love of our Father God. Their attitude was clearly mirrored in the actions of the older son, but even this son was assured of his place in the family by the father. This is, the prodigal son is considered a story without an ending. And basically, the question lingers in the air. Are you going to come to the celebration to rejoice over this one who was lost? Okay. So who do you see yourself more like? The younger son who lost himself by walking away from his father? Or as the older son who mistakenly believed following a set of rules was the same as a relationship and judged his sinner brother harshly. So who do you relate to more and why? Okay, so this particular devotional, number 18, is called I've Wandered Too Far, Lie. We have a son who wandered so far away, and what is demonstrated? Just the love. I mean, he did everything he could do to insult his father and his family. Everything. Good Jewish boy, feeding the pigs. That would not have gone unnoticed by those listening to the story. Okay, so who do I need to forgive in this story? Do I need to forgive myself for wandering away, for leaving the comfort of what I knew, or for being too religious and not accepting, and judging my sinner brother too harshly? Rewind. I have not walked too far away from you, and rules cannot be substituted for relationship. Rest. I accept the truth that you, God, are ready and waiting for me to return home to you. You are also waiting for those of us who feel like we relate to the religious brother more to come in and rejoice with those sinners that have been lost and are now found. Okay, what makes you feel close to God? Where do you connect with him the most? Be careful not to choose something that will get you back into performance. Remember, we talked about all those religious tasks that sound good, but we're just ticking off the list. The idea is to connect with God. If you're unsure, think about taking a walk in the woods or listening to worship music. Once you hit on an idea, make an effort to spend time doing that for a short period of time each day. So what did you try? How many minutes, how long did you commit to that? And after you've tried it, record your impressions here. Different people connect to God in different ways. I personally am more of a nature person. So, if I'm out, I love water, out on the lake, in my kayak alone or down a river. It's just so peaceful to me. And it does feel to me like that connection. I feel a connection to God through nature. Not everybody is that way though. So if your connection to God comes through something else, worship music. My sister, Chris, who joined me on this book, her method, she loves getting together with people and having worship nights and community and stuff like that. So that's her way. That's more her style, more her speed. It doesn't suit me as well. But find your way. What works for you in this situation? All right. Thanks as always for listening. And think of me as we go through this change. I have painting to do, moving boxes, everything. Anyway, I will not be overwhelmed. I will not be overwhelmed. Thank you for everything, you guys. Love you. Thanks for going on this journey with me.